Swim goal? Check. Bike goal? Check. Run goal? Check. Pretty great day at Ironman Musselman 70.3 in Geneva, New York, and I even stole my medal back from my 3-year-old, so we're all set there. We'll talk about it on today's podcast.
Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner Podcast. My name is Coach Scott. I'll be your host today. We are going to spend today's podcast recapping Ironman Musselman 70.3 from Geneva, New York. We had a great time. I had a great race. I hit all my goals. We talked about it briefly at the end of the last podcast. I got to tell you, I was recording that podcast and the battery button. I wanted to talk about Musselman and kind of do a sort of a bigger preview about it, but the battery gauge on the camera was blinking at me, and I was like, I got to get this out before the battery goes dead. And we got it done and got it out there, but not much detail. So I do, it's interestingly enough, as we were leaving for Musselman, I did a search on YouTube for Ironman Musselman, and the second video on there was our recap from last year's race. That race was sort of the catalyst for me wanting to do it again this year. For me, it was the base for all my goals that I set for this year, just trying to improve off of all of last year's, basically all of last year's performance. And, it was good that it kind of came up on that search engine there on the YouTube search, and actually even had one person come up to me and say, hey, are you? I was wearing the same shirt. I have like 6 of these, so it's not like I'm wearing the same exact shirt every day. But she came up to us at breakfast one day in the hotel, and she's like, "Hey, do you have a podcast on YouTube?" And I'm like, "Yeah, influencer, baby, influencer, right here." But it's actually really humbling when people introduce themselves to me. I don't ever really think that I kind of do this for the love of it. But it was really cool to talk to someone who had watched the podcast, and she even said that I helped her out a lot with her preparation and stuff for the race. So, and it was great. We saw her the day after. Me and Ellie were going down to breakfast, and we saw her leaving, and got to chat with her a little bit about her race, which was really successful. So, Michelle from New Jersey, thanks so much for introducing yourself. It was great to meet you, and I'm glad we both had great days out there on Sunday at Musselman. I always kind of do the same thing. I try to sort of recap the race in order of how we experienced it. So we'll do that. We'll do just that today, and we'll see how far we get with the podcast. And who knows? Maybe I'll throw out another few nuggets of wisdom for someone watching this next year, preparing for next year's version of the race. There's a lot to learn, especially just logistics-wise, I think, with this race in particular. But let's get going. I tell you, the one thing I noticed was that I'm starting to get used to prepping for these races and packing for these races, and it's almost becoming like second nature. What I mean is this: when I first started doing races, especially triathlons in general, whether it be a 70.3 or a full, whenever I pack, I'm very meticulous about it. I make lists. I start packing maybe 2 weeks in advance, trying to make sure that I have plenty of the things that I need to bring in order to have a successful race, and most importantly, not forget anything. Now, what I've noticed is over time, as you get used to it, you just become a little bit more complacent, and I think that complacency one day will bite me. It'll come back to bite me. I didn't start packing for this race until the night before we were leaving. So Thursday night I started packing, and I really just laid out my race stuff and my clothes and put some stuff out there. I'll remember that. And then thinking, if I forget anything, I'll just buy it when I'm there. Complacency will be my downfall one day. I forgot a few things while packing. I forgot Band-Aids, which I use to protect, all right, let's be honest, I protect my nipples. Look, they chafe. I get those cloth ones, those things that don't come off, and when they do, they put it this way: you need something that will hold during the swim. Those things will hold for months, and they will give you an entire chest wax once you start ripping that thing off. So I forgot those. I use Aquaphor as my chafing cream, and I forgot that. What else did I forget? The third thing that I forgot, a little more important, was my bike gloves. I wear gloves when I ride, and I actually don't wear them when I'm indoors. I just wear them when I'm outdoors, and I just sort of like wearing them. They're not a desperate need. It's not like I can't ride without them, or nor do I actually need. I mean, I probably could have bought them when I was there. I just forgot them, and I would have liked to have had them. I didn't go buy new ones. I didn't want to bother. I just kind of ran. I just went without. But the other two things, the Aquaphor and the Band-Aids, I was able to buy at Walgreens. Nothing. So I didn't forget anything major. I just know that one day, it's chafing cream and Band-Aids now, and next time it's wetsuit or bike helmet or bike shoes or something of that nature that I'm gonna forget. And so one of the things that I want to do is I do want to come up with a comprehensive list of the things that you guys bring when you go away, when you travel for a race, whether it be a marathon or whether it be a triathlon. And we're going to make a comprehensive list, and we're going to post those up to our website at teamordinary.com. It's going to take a few days to put that together, but keep an eye out for that. And, if you're watching on YouTube, plunk those ideas into the comments. Love to see them. Let us know what you bring. Maybe there's something that's, maybe there's something that I might not think of, or I might not remember, or something that's helpful. Like one of the things that we always remember to bring is Ziploc bags. You never know. Maybe it's going to rain. Maybe, I love to put, you could put things into the Ziploc bags, especially the big gallon ones, and kind of have everything ready to go. And then if it rains when you're at transition, you can throw those things in, throw your sneakers, throw whatever it is into those big Ziploc bags and let them stay dry while you're out running, racing, really riding and swimming, I guess. Keeping everything dry and stuff like that. Even just sort of to organize, it's a lot really helpful. I bring what's the other thing that I bring? A Sharpie pen is another thing, just to write my number on the gear bag, things like that. Just so that you don't lose things. You kind of get these little tips as you go, and you kind of build your repertoire of things that you like to bring. We have, one of the things that we forgot too was we have like a little cheer kit with those little cowbells. And every time we go to a race, we always say, all right, make sure we bring the cheer kit. And we always forget. So we always wind up buying more cowbells. And now I got like 5 Ironman cowbells in the garage. So it is what it is. We're just stockpiling cowbell. It's just crazy. But again, what it signals to me, and the importance of that comment really to me, the importance of that realization, is that one day, if I'm not careful, I am going to forget something important, and I don't want to do that. So again, just make sure that when you're packing things, you're a little more on the ball. We had some hotel drama. I'm going to leave that off the podcast for today. I could probably do a whole podcast on my hotel drama. I'm really upset about it. I totally got scammed, and it's my own fault for being a dummy. But I got scammed out of my hotel room and thrown into another hotel, and really it was all my fault. And for like double the price. So whatever. All my fault. It was kind of an issue with the trip, but I want to leave that out of the story. We want to talk about the race today. But I would say double check your hotel reservations in the days and weeks leading up to the race. Don't wait to the last minute, like when you're in your car looking for what the address of the hotel is. Oh, maybe I'll check my reservation. Oops, it's not there. Anyway, that's kind of how it started. The drama unfolded after that, but I don't even want to get into it. We got there on Friday night, found a great place to eat. We know the area now pretty well. You go to the same race one year, and then the next year, you learn a little bit about the area, and you know where to go, and you know what to do. And we certainly had that 1 year experience was really good for us. It was really good for us to kind of know the lay of the land and not have to try to, figure things out as we're going. We knew where everything was, very helpful. Went to transition to check in. I tell you what I really like about some races. Not all the races do this. When we went to Mont Tremblant, we went to Mont Tremblant 70.3, and they assigned us numbers before we ever got there. So there were 3 of us. Actually, I think there was 2 of us at that race, and I was in one spot, and my friend Joe was all the way down on the other side. There was no connecting. There was no, there was no sort of, you kind of had to walk. I had to walk really far away to go see him. So when you go to kind of set up your thing, you set up your station, you're just all by yourself and you don't know your people around you. So one of the good things that I'm seeing more and more often, I did this in Chattanooga and they did it in Musselman, is that they don't assign you bibs until you get there. So when you get there and you go to register with your friends, you get numbers in the same order. So I was like I think Joe was 107.5 and I was 107.6, which was excellent because we were able to have spaces right next to each other. We were right sort of on the edge too, so we had a little extra space. And it's just good to know your neighbor so you can kind of negotiate whose stuff goes where and not have to worry about anyone getting offended or anyone not having enough space. It's really convenient, I think, that when they do it that way. I think maybe if there's any kind of inconvenience. So one of the other things is we knew a bunch of people racing. We knew Jenna Austin, her husband Mike. We knew Michelle Melahusky's husband, I think Dave is his name. But you can't get when you know people sort of on the periphery that aren't going to be with you in person all the time. You kind of want to follow them and know where they are and know what their numbers are. So I could have obviously looked at the tracker later in the day. I didn't even think of it, but I had no idea where those guys were. I couldn't even go say hi or anything like that. What was funny was that we had dinner the night before. Steph and I had dinner the night before the race, and we're sitting in this restaurant and checking our Facebook page, and our friend Michelle posted that she was at the same restaurant that we were at, and they took a picture and they were sitting like right behind us. Now I turned around, I hadn't seen their Facebook post. It was like 16 minutes after she posted that I saw it, and I turned to look and they were gone by then. So we missed out. I did see Michelle coming out of the swim one time though, which was nice. It was nice. So it's good to see friendly faces out there. It just makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you're being supported. So it was a good time. And again, it's in terms of the bib numbers, it's not detrimental to your race either way. It's just which is your preference. And I think for me, I definitely like showing up with people that getting those bib numbers in line so so everyone's bike is together and you don't have to worry or fight over space or anything like that. I think that's certainly more helpful. So I like that they do it that way. Now, the kicker to Ironman Musselman, one of the kind of the frustrations, I guess, is that parking is out of control. It was similar, I guess, to Des Moines when we went out to Des Moines for the 70.3. Parking is about a mile away. It's very inconvenient. They don't run any shuttles. Like Maryland, the parking was far away from Ironman Village, but they ran shuttles back and forth. This one is like it's a walk. It is no joke. And you should kind of actually last year they brought us in and they turned us to the right along this kind of grassy knoll and parked us that way. So we were able to kind of get a little bit closer. This year they just brought us into his bigger parking lot to the left. They didn't fill that knoll, that grassy knoll there. So JFK would have survived. But no, it just made the walk a lot longer. And not only that, but I think on race morning, there were a lot of complaints about people getting there, being stuck in traffic for a long time, trying to work their way into the parking lot, and then having to walk. And obviously, if you come in late, you have to park further away, and it makes the walk even longer. And a lot of people just, getting there very late. Wait the line. We could see when we got there. So we knew that this was the case because we had done it last year. And so we had Joe's wife, Michelle, drop us off right near transition, which was super convenient. Some people don't have that option, but we were lucky enough that we had that option. Drop us off in the front, super convenient. We didn't have to worry about it, but we could see the taillights of the cars from transition area all the way out to the parking lot. And I do. It's one of those things. I'm an early bird. I always, if transition is open at 5, I'm typically there at 5. I'll be there early. I would rather be super early than have to deal with traffic and potentially be late. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for people who kind of like wait till the last minute and go. But I do understand that you might have thought that you had plenty of time. And then you got there late and you had to deal with the traffic going into parking. And that's frustrating. I understand your frustrations. I just didn't have to deal with them. But again, if you're doing this race next year, scope out the parking, know what you're doing, know where you're going, and bake in that time. You're going to be waiting. We got there early. It was a little chilly. I tell you, I had a tank top I was wearing, the Team Ordinary tank, and it was too cold. I wish I had something. Joe brought a shirt, a long sleeve shirt. I wish I would have done that. It was chilly out there in the morning. It was too cold to not be wearing something. Your body burns calories when you're just standing there in the cold trying to keep warm, and it was annoying, frustrating. So we sat there, we waited, and then at the last minute, Joe's like, let's go to the bathroom real quick before we swim. And we went over to the line, and there was a lot of bathrooms there. It wasn't like there was a shortage, but in the area that we were in transition, there was just there was one porta potty for every maybe 3 lanes of bike transition things, racks, and the line was maybe 15 people deep, and so it took a while to get through that line. And when we finished and we were walking up to the swim start, the gun went off and people were in the water. So now where we usually line up when we were in Chattanooga, we didn't get in the water for over an hour from the gun. This day, it took us about 40 minutes. We probably weren't able to make our way through the crowd up until to seat ourselves where we thought we should be. So we were a little bit seated further back. That's just, the price you pay, I guess, for going to the bathroom at the last minute. That's the price you pay. But, in a way, it's probably worth it. Get rid of that sort of excess water. You don't want it weighing you down. You don't want to, you don't want to have to pull over later. I have trouble peeing in the water. I know some people just do it. For whatever reason, it's like the water is like a cork. It just doesn't work for me. And so the last thing you want to do is kind of be uncomfortable swimming. So anyway, onto the swim. So the swim, some of the swim was interesting. Now, I think the very beginning of the swim was an interesting point because I tell you, I did not see a timing mat. I didn't see any timing mat there. And this may lead to part of the problems that we saw later on in the race. Now, I know for a fact in Lake Placid, I walk over a timing mat. I don't remember Chattanooga if I walked over one or what. I think I did. As we were kind of walking in. There was a timing mat there. We sat on the edge of the dock, and then we went in the water. I think, but honestly, I can't remember. I don't know how they timed the start. There was a guy there that was shoveling sand. So what happened was a ramp, and at a certain point, you walk on the sand. And what happens is the sand, it's not a natural hill there. It's just someone shoveled a whole bunch of sand to make a ramp. So what happens is when people step on it, it tamps the sand down, and they got to keep throwing more sand on it. Now, I don't know if that's where the problem happened or not, but somewhere, someone had kicked out a timing mat, and they said it was a volunteer, and that blew up a lot of people's times. Now, if you remember, I was going out, and last year I swam about 48 and a half minutes, and I wanted to beat that time by 5 minutes this year. I am better trained this year. I was more well prepared. I weigh 20 pounds less than I did going into the race last year. I felt good. I was on that line, though, and I tell you, me and Joe had this conversation. Like, every time I'm on that swim line, I'm thinking, why do I do this? It was cold. The water was cold. I'm looking out there, and I'm like, man, I don't feel like swimming right now. I don't feel like, and I don't know what it is. Like, I feel like, and it could be some sort of imposter syndrome, and it could be, I don't do a lot of swimming in open water, so it could be just partly that, and I don't feel like I'm ready to go. I feel like I haven't practiced enough open water swim. Good to wait till the last minute to figure that part out, right? But invariably what happens is I get in the water, and I just find my groove. Now, last year, they did the swim. You got in the water. You went straight out into the middle of the lake as far as you could go, and then turn around. Not as far as you can go, but, half of the distance of, so 0.6 miles out, turn around, 0.6 miles back. And when we went out, there was a current that was into your face, and I remember that kind of ruining my swim last year. It wasn't a tremendous current, but it was enough where it was kind of up and down, up and down. I got a little motion sickness. I never quite felt comfortable that entire swim. Part of it could be the extra 20 pounds. I don't know. That was not the case. They changed the course this year. They made it, instead of going straight out, you went sort of to the side, which was kind of interesting because you could have probably walked the first 700 yards in the water if you chose not to swim. You could see the bottom almost the entire swim, which was really kind of neat. The water was clear because you went sideways, and also because it just wasn't. Last year there was a little bit of a storm coming in, so there was some wind, and it caused a little the current. The current was pretty much non-existent. Definitely didn't have to really factor that in. I didn't get any motion sickness. I was able to find a groove right away and just hit it, and just kind of hit the groove. The buoy seemed to fly by very quickly. I never really felt like I couldn't, sometimes I just get uncomfortable. Even in Chattanooga a little bit, I got a little uncomfortable, and I felt like, oh man, like I can't believe we got to do this for another 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it may be. But I got into a groove pretty early, and I felt good this entire swim. I finished in, my Garmin said something like 42 and a half minutes. And when I got out of the water, now, Ironman timed me at like 44 something minutes. Someone they posted the time. And then what happened was, because of the whole issue with the timing in the swim, they removed that time. So if you look up my time on the Ironman app right now, it'll say it won't have one. They removed everyone's, I think here's what happened. There was a certain time frame where people were getting times and everything was good. And then, from what I understand, a volunteer kicked out the timing mat, or something must have happened that threw off the time. And it registered me as 44 minutes and change when I know I came in at 42 and a half minutes. Now, I don't know what that entails. I don't know how that got screwed up. It henceforth got erased. So I am just going with my Garmin time, and I don't care. I'm just going with it. I know it's accurate. I know it's good. I went in the water, I pressed it. I came out of the water, I pressed it. That was my time, 42:36, I think it was. Interestingly enough, 1.2 mile swim, 42:36. I definitely felt better than I was 2 months ago in Chattanooga, May 22nd. That race was 1.4 miles with the current at our backs. I swam that in 41. I swam that faster, 1.4 miles, than I did the 1.2 mile swim that I felt better at. So go figure. Chattanooga is that current is something else, man. Let me tell you. If you have trouble with swimming, Chattanooga is your race. Chattanooga, I can't. I can't say. I have the two comparisons. I'll put it up here. The comparisons here. For Chattanooga and Musselman, you could see my pace in Chattanooga was like 1:37 versus Musselman was like 2 minutes. And I tell you, I can't even swim 1:37 in the pool. I can't, like, even sprinting in the pool, I can't swim 1:37. That current just pulls you through. That is an amazing race, Chattanooga. But anyway, back to Musselman, because that was what we're talking about. I love the swim, and I really wish that there was no problems with the swim. But you know what? I know my time, and I know I beat my goal. My goal was to beat 48 minutes by 5 minutes, so 43 and a half minutes. I did that. I did that with a minute to spare. I felt really good. Last year I got out of that water, and I was just thankful. I felt ill. I felt sick. I just was so thankful to be on the ground. I remember thinking, like, there's no way I could have ever went back to do a full Ironman there, to do another loop. There was just no way I would have wanted to go back into that water and that current and whatever. I just felt awful. This time I felt great, and I probably could have gone back in and finished another loop. It was a great swim. The water was great. The water was clear. Yeah, I did bang around and hit some people here and there. I had a couple people going to breaststrokes. Listen, I understand that you got to do it. I understand that's a tactic for saving your energy when you don't feel right. And I get it that maybe you just feel more comfortable going in the breaststroke. But when I'm swimming behind you and you go from that nice straight kick to that breaststroke kick, oh my God, I was kicked in the face. It happened to me twice. I think it's also just, part of it. I get it. And I even would tell my athletes to do the same as their coach. Look, if you feel bad going to breaststroke, go into backstroke. Do something to make you feel comfortable and allow yourself to recoup energy. But when you're out there swimming, man, and that person just goes into that kick, and it's frustrating. But anyway, a great swim nonetheless. Let's move on. Let's move on to the bike. Now, the bike was my big goal. The bike, you know what? If the other two goals, if my swim and my run would not have made it, I would have been happy just with attaining my bike goal. Now, here was the deal with the bike. In 2021, I finished the bike in 3:48, I believe. Went to Chattanooga, did the bike there in 3:41 or 3:42. I'm down 8 pounds from Chattanooga. I'm down 20 pounds from last year, Ironman Musselman, and I wanted to get through 3.5 hours. I just wanted to get through 3.5 hours. And I got to tell you, I crushed it. 3:23 and change. I went out there, I gave it everything I had, and I felt comfortable all day. All day. It was great. I mean, I beat Joe Bartlett in the swim, and I beat him significantly. I was feeling pretty good about it. It was just a matter of time before he caught me on the bike, and I knew he was after me. It took him to like mile 13 or 14 until he caught me. He caught me on a hill, and he just is crushing the hills. So he screamed at me, tried to cheer me on to keep me going. And, I actually gave it a really good effort up that hill, but he's still too fast, and he just crushes me on the bike every time. Anyway, so he passed me on the bike. That was the only probably negative, and it wasn't even a negative because we kind of have this like friendly rivalry, but I cheer him on. I want him to do well, and it was good. It was, it's like refreshing to see your buddy when you're out there, and especially watching him kick ass up the hill. It was great. So even though Joe, we joke around, I root for you. I root for you. Anyway. Last year, I just remember being out there, and the course is a little bit different. I knew that. I knew they removed some of the climbing, but I do remember struggling, like really being in the struggle zone last year, and really having difficulty with some of the more extended climbs. And I did not have any of that this year. I rarely hit my granny gear. I did hit it once or twice up some of the steeper hills. But man, I felt really good, and there were some moments where I was just able to really go after it. I felt like that was by far and away my strongest effort on the bike, and I do think that by losing more weight, it will only make me faster, and I'm really looking forward to just continuing that, dropping that weight and continuing with the good eating. And man, it's motivating me to eat better, just knowing that I went from 231 pounds in Chattanooga to 223 in Musselman, and I picked up 8 minutes on the bike. And granted, it wasn't that much, 8 minutes, 18 minutes on the bike. How much more when I get to 200 pounds? How much more when I get to 190 pounds? How much faster will I be? I need to find this out. Is getting through 3 hours, is that unattainable? No, of course it's not unattainable. That is attainable. It just takes hard work, determination, and not even just on the bike practicing, but at the table and eating too. And I'm just looking. I'm really I feel like I'm on such a good path, and I just want to continue that and see how fast I can get when I'm at peak performance, not just athletically, but also diet wise and fitness wise, and just being prepared. I'm excited for that. And this finish 323 made me feel wonderful. And I remember the last few months, there were some hills out there, and I wasn't exactly sure how the timing was going to work out. And even with 8 miles to go, I'm looking at the watch. I'm going, I think I got 3.5. I'm not quite sure how much I'm going to beat it by, but let's make sure. And I had a little in the tank, so I pressed hard, and I got it. I got it comfortably with 6.5 minutes to spare. Feel great about that. I couldn't feel better about that. Of course, then you get off the bike and you realize, oh wait, I got to run. And that's why, having a manageable goal for the half marathon, which was just really to kind of beat my time from last year, preferably by about 5 minutes. And I got to be honest, I don't have the times in front of me. I do think I beat it by 5 minutes, right around 5 minutes. But going out onto that run, I said, I love the swim. As much as I hate being in line and waiting for it, when I get in there and I find my groove and I have a good day, I love the swim. When I get on the bike, I love challenging myself. I love pushing myself on the bike course, even up hills. I love sort of that feeling it gives me that I'm doing work. Get off on the run, and I got to tell you, it's like suffering. You got to kind of just, for me, it's like I have to gauge the suffering, whatever suffering level I wish to accept on that day. That's the effort that I push forth. Now, my approach, which I changed a little since we did the podcast last, my approach to the run was I did it in threes. I took 3-minute intervals, and I went, all right. Last year I did this in twos. Last year the way I did it was I took a 2-minute block and I ran for 30 seconds and I walked for 1.5 minutes, and I tried to maintain that as much as I could. Had to change it for hills, whatever. And I finished, I want to say, like a 14-minute pace, something like that. This year I went out, I made that a 3-minute block, and the initial goal was to run 2 minutes, walk 1. Run 2 minutes, walk 1. I'm in better shape this year. I felt like I could attain that. I did that for the first few intervals, and that went away fairly quickly. I reduced it to 1.5 minutes run, 1.5 minute walk, Then I reduced it to 1 minute run, 2 minutes walk. Then I reduced it from there to just every 3 minutes, just start running. Just make yourself start running. Unless you're on a super steep hill, every 3 minutes, make yourself start running. Do it as much as you feel comfortable, and then stop and walk. And I think ultimately that did catch up to me. And I was walking there were some intervals, especially the uphill ones, where I didn't even start running. I just passed and I would walk. But then there were some of the downhills. You get the downhills where I would run the full 3 minute interval. So I felt pretty good. And I think, the interesting thing is too, the timing mats failed. There was some sort of failure on the running timing mat, so I don't have any splits other than my Garmin splits, which to be honest I haven't even looked at, other than every mile looking down at my watch, trying to gauge where I was. I think and I'm guessing, I know I was through 14-minute pace. I think I was somewhere around 13, a little between 13 and a half. Felt pretty good about that. I'm fine with it. But again, I think my approach was to gauge my suffering, right? Because you can go out there, and I think a lot of people they go after the half marathon trying to run the entire way. And I'm not criticizing approaches. I just think that the approach for me, if I tried to do that, I think that would put me into the suffering zone much, much quicker. Much, much quicker. And I actually maintain a better pace on an average basis by giving myself those walk breaks. When I run, I will run close to a 10 to 10 and a half minute pace, and then walk at probably like a 14 and a half minute to 15 minute pace. And that will average out to a faster pace than would I if I just slogged and jogged as slow as possible, just to try to maintain the fact that I'm jogging. That would cause me a lot of suffering early on. That would cause me, and because you suffer early, then you're going to suffer more late. Right? Where if you can kind of, I think the way I put it was, when you hit the run, it's just a level of suffering you're willing to accept. And if you front load that suffering, you think you're front loading it, but the back end of that suffering is going to be way worse. So if you can kind of average out the suffering by doing intervals, for me, it helps a lot, and it helps me survive. And especially like miles, I tell you, I hit mile 10. I was happy I was at mile 10. But I knew that those last 3.1 were going to be tough, and they were. They were tough. They were challenging. They were painful. But I did make it through. I think I was very close. And again, the timing got all screwed up because of the timing mat issues, and because they removed my swim and they removed my T1. I don't know if I would have beat 7 hours. I was pretty darn close to 7 hours, and I think I was pretty darn close to 8 hours last year. So overall, just a tremendous improvement. And I feel really good about it. I feel really good about finishing. I'm in a good spot. I'm in a really good place. The race itself, a lot of people are complaining. And, okay. All right. I think, what? Social media kind of bothers me. And I think a lot of people go on there to complain just to hear themselves complain. It's very unattractive. I get it. You spend a lot of money on these races. You spend a lot of money on travel, right? Ironman, you're paying up for what you think is, concierge service, the best of the best. And then something like that happens. And you know what? It's convenient to be able to go onto the Ironman tracker. I still do it for my old races. That's how I get my statistics. I go on the Ironman tracker and I find all the stats from my old races. Now this race will not be there. It won't be there. I don't have a swim time. How do I not have a swim time? I had one for a moment and then they took it off. I don't understand how I lost my swim time. I don't get it. It's frustrating, but you know what? I got the data on my watch. I think ultimately what I want out of Ironman is a pristine venue, a safe venue to race. I felt like I got that. A clean place to go, not to swim, and to feel safe, to be able to bike on the roads and feel safe. And there was some traffic out there, but I never did I not feel safe. And to have great support and great volunteers. And that comes from the volunteers and their energy as well. And that was excellent. The run stations were great. There were plenty of run stations out there too. It was amazing. It was great. The bike course, excellent. I got, I tell you, I have no complaints. I get it. They sent out an email the next day trying to describe what happened. And immediately, the person I felt worse for was a guy named Anthony Park, who is from my town, and he competes in his age group. And he had a goal. He wanted to get a slot to the Finland race that he would have to earn by coming in, I don't know what place. My concern was if they removed his swim, and maybe he would have gotten his place if they kept his swim, because I know he's a strong swimmer. And it turned out he got the spot anyway. Now, I got to be honest. I don't care. I have my data. I didn't really care. All right, so I'm a little bit upset that Ironman went and blamed the volunteer. I wish they would have just eaten the fault on their own. I volunteer in Lake Placid. It's fun to volunteer, but these volunteers, they go out there on their own time, and they're not trying to hurt any race or take away from any race. And you know what? If they were close enough to equipment that's detrimental to the race, that's not the volunteer's fault. That is a person's fault. That is someone that is a hired person that is involved with either the timing mat or the setup at Ironman. That is their fault. So I a little bit of distaste in my mouth that they blame the volunteer so easily. Like, just leave the volunteers out of it. All right, don't blame a volunteer. Someone made a comment that they did that for another race once before, and that maybe it's just their thing. It's an easy thing to blame the volunteer. I don't know about that. Whatever. Gossip is gossip. I don't think they would blame a volunteer if a volunteer didn't do it. I think that they just didn't think. Some races have trouble getting volunteers. Ironman's lucky that I think they typically get them. I know Lake Placid, they're always asking for them, and they get a lot of them. So you don't want to do anything that ruins that relationship between volunteer and race. And I'm sad that they went and blamed the volunteer, even if it was the volunteer's fault. I wish they just wouldn't have said anything. Some people complained about the parking. Again, I have very little sympathy there, but I get it. I understand. I had experience from the year before. I knew what was going to happen. We got dropped off. I didn't have to deal with it. Sometimes you just got to plan ahead a little better. I get it. I understand. It's inconvenient, but you knew it was a long walk, and you knew, you just get there earlier. You got to get there earlier. I don't have a problem with this race. I like the race. I enjoyed it. Right now, for next year, 23, I would go back in a heartbeat. I love the town. I love the volunteers. I love the race. I love the venue. I would do this race again in a heartbeat. I think to do it again, though, for me, if I'm going to do the Lake Placid full next year, this race is like 2 weeks before. It's not smart. It's not smart for me to do this one and 2 weeks later to do a full. So I have pretty much committed to Lake Placid of next year. I'll say this, a couple of things ran through my mind as I was racing on Sunday. One was, I can't believe I'm going to do double this distance, especially when it came to the run. Somewhere around mile 7, mile 8, I was like thinking, thank God I'm more than halfway through and I'm going to be done. And then it clicked in my brain like, wow, next year I have to do double this distance. How am I going to do, from mile 7, how am I going to do 3.5 times this distance, almost 4 times that distance, when I feel this crappy now? So that did hit my brain. The other thing that hit my brain was, I'm really starting to enjoy downhill, like rolling hills, where you can kind of get speed going down and where that speed brings you up that next hill. There was a lot of those out in Chattanooga, and there was a lot of those out in Musselman. And I'm starting to learn how to use that speed going down the hill, kind of then going up the next hill. And in years past, I would get kind of nervous going downhill, and I would hold back, and I wouldn't pedal into it. And now I'm kind of eating up that speed, and I'm really learning how to do that, and I love that. Lake Placid doesn't have a lot of rollers. It's a lot of low sustained climbing, which I got to be honest isn't as fun. Now, I am pretty much committed to Lake Placid. I'm going to do Lake Placid next year. I know this, you know this, we all know this. But I was starting to have a smidge of second thoughts about it during Sunday's race. I'm not going to change my mind, guys. I'm not going to. I'm committed. It just started hitting me like, man, maybe I'll just choose another venue, or maybe I'll find something that's more fun for me. I am pretty much roped into Lake Placid next year. Let's just say that. I'm doing it. I've done podcasts on it. I've told people about it. If I really wanted to change my mind, yeah, I would do it. But there's something about Lake Placid that's just special too, and I'm still going to go after it. That's still my race for next year. Musselman in general, I loved it. Like I said, I would go back. I would do it again. if you're going to read the Ironman Musselman Facebook page and take from that and then say that you're not going to go back next year or try to discourage people from going back, you can do that. You can do that. And you know what? And I feel for some people. I do think, from what I understand, the feedback that I got from people who know that Ironman did right by all the folks that were looking for slots to get into whatever championship, age group that they wanted to get in. That they split the race into those who were timed for all three disciplines, and then those that they only timed for the bike and the run. And they split them into two different segments, and they even gave more slots. They increased the slots, and not only did they increase the slots, but if you weren't there to get your slot and your name came up, they actually called you, whereas in the past, you had to be there. So they kind of had a very understanding outlook, which Ironman normally does not do. Ironman normally very rigid with their rules, to the point of people complain a lot more than this, and it seemed to me like they went out of their way to accommodate people for something that, look, let's be honest, stuff like this happens. It happens. For a race to go down and be pristine, everything has to go right, and every once in a while something goes a little wrong, and we just have to kind of be mindful of stuff happens. And yeah, people hopefully people learn from their mistakes, and not even so much the volunteer that might have kicked out some sort of wire that threw everything off, but the people who are responsible for making sure that everything is connected properly. Even the run, if you go and you look at the run stats, right? Last year I have all my different intervals out there. This year just one number. I got one number for my run, and all of those intervals in between, they're just blank. I have no idea other than my watch data. So, I don't know. Hopefully they learn from those mistakes, and hopefully they improve on it next year. We didn't have that problem last year, so hey, is what it is. I'm more forgiving. I had a great day. We should be thankful that we had a great day with a great venue, great weather. I got a little sunburn because I forgot to go to the sunscreen station. Dummy. It was great seeing my family out there on the race course. It was a little tough with the three-year-old. Steph, I only saw her twice on the race course, but still, it's great to see them out there. It always kind of gives you a boost, especially with my 3-year-old ringing the cowbell and screaming my name, Daddy, Daddy. It was great. And she, when we finished up, I gave her the medal. She was very proud of the medal. She didn't let it go for like 2 days, but I finally got it back. And now we're going to throw this one onto the medal rack. And it's funny, like we were talking about how complacent you get. I get complacent with my medals too. Some are just in the bedroom, some are in the garage. I have a medal rack in the gym, but it's kind of gotten full, and I'm not going to buy another one. I just throw them around. It's not so, for me, I don't know. The medals are nice. It's just significant. Maybe years later I'll find it and go, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that. And maybe it'll kind of bring up specific memories about the day or about the race and the experience and the friends that you met and the people you spoke to. And that's really all it's about, right? It's about setting goals for yourself. It's about attaining those goals, hitting those goals. And it's about being with people that are all like-minded and want you to succeed and want everyone else to do well as well. The camaraderie of it all is wonderful. I want to thank my friend Paul and Miranda, his wife Miranda, for coming out, and Jimmy and his wife Karen for coming out and watching, even though Jimmy couldn't race. Joe and Michelle, always great to see you guys out there. And for all the people from the community that kind of cheer us on while we train and help us. Anthony Park, great job. Congratulations again on qualifying for Finland. That's awesome. Coming in second in his age group. Dave Melhusky and his wife Michelle, great race out there. Dave, I did see that you finished and did well, I might add. Jenna and Mike Austin, sorry I didn't run into you guys, but I'm sure we'll see each other on Zwift in the coming days and on our trivia ride as well. I'll be back training. I got more things to do. Maybe I'll tell you guys my hotel story one day. We'll see how that goes. But a great day in Musselman. Maybe this will show up on the next search for Ironman Musselman for next year. Maybe some of you guys can write your comments in there if I helped you out in any way. If you have questions about the course in any way, let me know. Again, I'm not trying to fight people or say that their complaints aren't legit. Look, life is short. I'm not going to complain about a race when I went there. And you know what? I didn't know anything about the discrepancies until the end, and I had a great time doing it. I have all the data I need in my watch, and I'm a happy guy. That note, now we move on to the next goal, to the next thing. Train hard, work hard, and remember, every day is an ordinary day unless you make it extraordinary. So get after it, guys.